Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome
Happy-
to Nerdy Power Hour. How's it going, Naoto?
Good. How are you, Nathan?
I'm good, man. It's Friday.
Good.
Sun's out. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm doing great. I've been this week's been pretty busy. For those of you following my Instagram, I just posted yesterday I posted one story that the knife that looked like almost like a bread knife. I had
Oh yeah.
I fixed it yesterday, so I will be posting that. I've been, keeping myself pretty busy and everything, but it's great. It's great. It's Friday. I was super thirsty. Went to the fridge of the office and I found this often beer sitting there. So I'm like, oh yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's a beer kind of day. It's 4:00.
We don't get to like it. We used to have the champagne Saturdays and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Do you miss that? Like working from home, like you don't get to do.
I really. Oh, I miss it so much. We get to celebrate when people have their work birthday or sometimes just for fun, and I think we get to drink a larger than average amount of champagne at Knifewear after work compared to other retail stores and other knife stores. And I was pretty happy when I started working at Knifewear, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, we drink champagne on Saturdays like once or twice a month. So yeah, I miss it. It's been a while.
It's been a while, so time to time, even the warehouse we don't. Well, at an office space we don't get to do that, right? So I think one or two may be allowed. Maybe it's secret. Don't tell my boss.
That seems fair. No, don't tell the internet. I've got a bit of rye that I'm gonna sip on too. So we'll have a nice Friday happy hour while we talk about knife sharpening.
Yeah.
So what's today's topic now, Tel?
Yeah, today the 2 weeks ago I did the top 10. It was actually probably 11 favorite blacksmith. I wanted to focus a little bit more on the sharpeners this time because oftentimes blacksmith gets lots of attention on the works that they do, and oftentimes those people are the ones who could put their name on the blades, but the knives are not knives when they're not sharpened, right? So I will be talking about my favorite 10 knife. Well, I actually have them like 11. My favorite sharpeners. They're not the necessarily my position where after customers use them, bring it back to resharpen. I'll be focusing more on the people who sharpens before. It's those people who makes knives, manufacturer kind of standpoint. Also, this sharpener list is not really only limited to the sharpeners. As some places they all they do is just sharpen knives. I have included some of the blacksmiths who does actually everything in house. Who I would think they are one of the best sharpeners as well. So I got the list here, and we can talk about it. Nathan, is there anything before we head to get into those things? Do you have any announcements?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's just really interesting, and I think a lot of people will realize today just how much work is involved in knife sharpening when it comes to knife making, and how much the knife sharpener affects the performance of the knife. Not just the edge out of the box, but the way the knife is actually sharp, the taper of the blade, the way it glides through food, especially denser foods like potatoes and carrots. And so the way your knife works is largely a result of how it's been sharpened. I mean, the blacksmith has a huge part to do with it as well, but it's probably just as much, because of the knife sharpener. So you've got a blank there to show, it looks like. Real quick, we do have a couple pieces of news. The razor sale is still on at our sister site, Ken of Inglewood. So if you head to kenofinglewood.com, all razors are 15% off until the end of March. We have a new blog up on knifewear.com. It's about Barkeeper's Friend. It's a bit of a new topic, a new product for us, but it talks about how to use Barkeeper's Friend to remove rust from your knives. And then lastly, we've got a new YouTube video too, and that's all about how to carve a beef roast with a Tsujihiki. So if you, are a meat eater like myself and Naoto, and you're maybe considering getting a bit of a longer blade, this video kind of shows off some of the techniques, how to carve a beef roast properly, and some tips for cooking one. So yeah, check that out.
Yeah, I watched the video. Mike makes the really good looking roast.
Yeah, we actually just kind of forgot about it for an hour while we were shooting, and then just pulled it out, and it looked really good.
Yeah.
But he is really good. I mean, he's professional chef for 15 years or so, so he can cook a piece of meat pretty well.
Yeah. I wish I were there when you were shooting. It was like, oh, that piece of meat looks so good. Anyways.
Yeah, we pretty much just ate beef for lunch that day, and it was pretty awesome. And roast beef sandwiches for a few days after.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's start. For those of you, if you have any questions, just leave down on the comment section below or anywhere that you can see. We'll try to answer as much as we can. Alrighty, I'm gonna do it a very similar format as we did last time when we talked about the blacksmith. Here is the slide that I made. The sharpeners here is the sharpeners list. Okay, what I'm going to talk about here is the so what the sharpeners does usually is the in certain region of Japan, the knife making regions, what they do is the blacksmith forges the blade into the shape like this. This is a very typical example. Sakai is known for the sharpening blades. Well, the forging and the sharpeners, they do have a separate the workshops, right? So the knife blacksmith only forges the blades into this shape, and then the sharpeners will get them, sharpen and bevel and do that. The other parts is that the handle makers, of course, this doesn't have a handle, and also the last bit of they call themselves the wholesalers, but they check. It's the last place to check the whole knife before they ship the knife to the end users or the retail stores like ours, right? So this is how they look like. Okay, so I'm just going to make this back here. So the sharpeners, when you look here, I just wanted to, it's not judging. I'm not judging them. They are much better than we are. So I'm not judging, but I just put the judging criteria because this is something I would consider when I'm looking at the knives and when I'm considering, who's the good the sharpeners are and stuff like that, right? So, I am only judging those knives that that I have seen, that I have sharpened, and that I have used. There are so many more knife sharpeners around that I've known, so I will mention them, and I'm super curious about them. But I am not, here to judge the knives that I've never used. It's fair enough, right? Like you can't really judge a restaurant that you have never been, and tell, oh, that restaurant has got a Michelin 3-star every year, that therefore should be super good. I'm just gonna put that on the top 10. It's not fair, right? So I'll be just
I think that's a really reasonable way to approach it. And if anybody has a knife sharpener or knife maker who maybe sharpens their own knives that they're a fan of, let us know in the comments, because we're always looking for different stuff and always curious about other makers too. So if you want to help us broaden our horizons, by all means, we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. I have the last slide that I have the list of the sharpeners that I would like to see, and it's pretty famous in that certain region of Japan as well. But here's some certain criteria, right? Like I want to see that it's sharpness, out of box sharpness. That's not really what I'm talking about, right? Because the kitchen knives that we carry, we've been dealing with, those are sharp. Those like out of box sharpness, you should be able to cut tomatoes without any efforts, right? From our standpoint, our view, we have to think a little bit more farther than that, right? So that's why I got a little bit of criteria, because it's kind of hard to judge, or hard to say why I like this guy better, or why I like this guy, kind of stuff. So,
so it's more about how their craftsmanship affects the performance of the knife through its lifespan, rather than just, you know, what you see online where people cut a tomato in a piece of paper and make a judgment off of that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And to be fair, real quick, I think, I mean, you're a pretty modest guy now, so, but it should be said that you've actually been in a lot of these sharpeners workshops, right? Like, you've actually got to see how they work, talk to them in person, or at least, you know, over the phone extensively, and kind of get to know their sharpening a little more intimately than just taking the knife out of the box and looking at it and testing it, right?
Exactly. That's why I have this philosophy part in it, right? Because it is, I think it's super important to have the like, look at a knife, and like the sharpener sometimes tells you the story. For example, I will have him in our list for sure, but Shibatasan, he puts all of his philosophy, how the kitchen knife should be, how they cut, how the finishes should be, and everything into the kotetsu knife, right? So I definitely consider that what the sharpeners thinks about the approaches, how they approach, how they think, how they think the knife should be and stuff. I take that, like, consideration in the big time. Make sense, right?
Yeah, well, it's a very personal thing for them, right? Like, you know, the people that sharpen knives at Knifewear, just the regular staff, they take sharpening pretty seriously. But this is these guys' careers, right? Like, this is what they're going to be doing for the rest of their life. So yeah, they all have some pretty strong opinions and feelings and philosophies that have gone into how they sharpen their knives, right?
Where some people that I've seen, like, they are super good sharpeners, but they are not necessarily. They are more like a workers, tradesmen, that they do super great job, but they don't have the mindset. Some, like, of the creating their own work type of situation as well. There are a few blacksmiths or the sharpeners that I've seen that I do it because it's a job, right?
Right.
Where how, say again, Shibata-san started it, is that he's almost like a perfectionist kind of person, right? So, like, that's how he ended up making those frying pans. Like, wanted to buy a super good iron, iron frying pans. Never, nothing was around, like, that meets his criteria.
Yeah, it wasn't about making money. It was about creating a product that he would want to use at home, right?
So it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, like, he was in a position that he has connection to some of the steel makers and such. So he decided to make a iron, like, frying pan, right? So like, his frying pans are great because it's all about what he wanted to do, and it's the same thing as kotetsu. Kotetsu, like, kitchen knife, should do this, this, this. In order to do this, this should be the finish, and all that stuff is all combined. So those ones are have been taken into consideration when I picked this I think list of 11 people here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I see a lot of parallels between knife makers and chefs, right? Some people are chefs because it's a skill that they have and they're good at it, and it's a way for them to make a living. And some people are chefs because they are obsessed with it and are constantly chasing perfection and tweaking and constantly learning. And there's nothing wrong with either way, but it really comes through when somebody does their job for the passion of it before the money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, this is kind of where it starts, and if there's anyone asking any questions before I proceed, I'm gonna flip that.
Yeah, let's pop a quick one in here. Craig's Kitchen Rock says, I find that with more Japanese knives I buy, most could use a sharpening before their first use. They cut noticeably better after I sharpen them. Is this typical of most knives? I think it's a really interesting issue because a lot of people have different perceptions of sharpness and different needs from their knife, right? I think a lot of the people that shop at Knifewear are just home cooks, folks like my mom or dad who just want a knife that feels pretty sharp and does a good job. And then there's people like you and myself, and I'm guessing Craig here, who are really serious about their sharpness and get to the kind of nerdy level of it.
And also a little bit of regional difference as well. I found even if you spend pretty decent good money, the last we call it koba or the micro bevel, last bit of the sharpening. Oftentimes it's not been done properly in our sense, out of box quality. So you may just have to touch a little bit. Oftentimes the knife makers, sharpeners, they do sharpen them to about 50 to 70% sharpness. They don't want to sharpen to the 100% because they're selling it to like so many wide variety of people, right? So that they want to make it this 100% sharpness because one sharper that is thinner, it chips a little bit easy. Oftentimes people really need that smooth of the edge, those kind of stuff. So yes, but say for example, but a lot of blacksmith and knife makers, sharpeners, they try to make it a little bit more universal edge than the very specific, the sharp edge possible type.
That makes a lot of sense because I find I sharpen my own kitchen knives at home as you do, and if I'm using my knife or my spouse is using my knife, who knows how to use a knife, what we would say properly, being fairly gentle, not scraping the edge, not cutting super hard foods, then I stay sharp for a really long time. But if I sharpen a knife for, like I said, one of my parents or a family member or friend or whatever, chances are I'm gonna not make it as sharp because if I make it to my level of sharpness, they're going to be hitting the cutting board hard. They might not have the right cutting board, and their knife's going to dull really quickly if I sharpen it to my standard, as opposed to maybe bringing that down. So essentially, you're agreeing with Craig, yeah, and that's why the blacksmiths do it that way.
Yeah. It's really, they try to make it as a little bit more like general, people who's looking for better knives to So. And oftentimes for those people who's looking to get that extreme or that kind of sharpness, they have ability to be able to actually do that, right? Oftentimes they have the sharpening stones at home, so that's one of the biggest reasons why.
Cool. Okay, one more before we move on, and then we'll get on to the meat of the show. Fighting Music, who tunes in all the time, thanks, good to see you, buddy, but also has done a lot of sharpening, clearly, says I predominantly sharpened semi and full stainless all my life. If I do good with stainless, the odds are I'll do better with carbon steel. Will I really notice the difference in sharpening?
Absolutely you do. The stainless steel we generally speaking have much more, we call it the wear resistance to it. That means it will not grind off as fast or as easy as generally the carbon steel. So you will do really, really well with the carbon steel if you have been sharpening a stainless steel. Only thing that you have to be a little bit careful is that the carbon steel, again, because doesn't have as much wear resistance than the carbon steel, the burr formation will be much, much faster. So just be aware. You don't have to sharpen them as much as you did with for example, VG10 stainless steel. For example, other steels. So it's going to be much faster and easier.
Cool, awesome. All right, well let's talk about some knife sharpeners.
Alrighty. So I can't remember how So it's not the top 10. It's just the list of people that I like. Okay, so there's no numbering. So just so you know, here. Alrighty, little bit of quiz format, little bit, right? Because I didn't nickname them like I did for the blacksmith because it's a little bit hard. But the I put the name of the city, and I put the what you call it, the initials of the sharpeners. So I kind of wanted to have that little bit more like interactive experience with the people audiences. But here is the first guy, and I mentioned it a few times already, but the he is the he is someone I always look up to when it comes to sharpening and the philosophy and the way he thinks about kitchen knives, the way he thinks about the like basically a whole industry, the kitchen knife industry in Japan as well. So he lives in the city of Fukuyama, which is in Hiroshima Prefecture, and his initial is TS. And
I'm trying to guess, but I'm stumped. I probably even know who it is. Now real quick, I know sometimes you can say name, if I'm not mistaken, you can say names, first and last name in Japan a little differently from how we would do it here, right?
Yeah, well, this one here, I put the first name first, last name last.
Okay.
So family name,
Awesome.
S family name, T is the his first name.
Got it.
I'm sure.
Okay, well we got one guess from Sean in the comments.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually. Yeah. So,
what can you tell us about this guy before we reveal who's behind door number one?
Well, this probably the reason why I put him on the first slide is not definitely someone that we look up, like I look up to when it comes to sharpening. I visited, like he's visited us quite a few times. I've already, like, this is pretty easy, and yeah, let's just say it. Sean, you got it right. It's Takayuki Shibata-san from Fukuyama. He is definitely one of the best sharpeners in Japan. His way of thinking, what he thinks a knife should be, how everything about his way of sharpening makes his really great. The kotetsu knives, we haven't seen them for a little while. I just got a news from Shibata-san saying one of the employees were in a sick leave for a little while, so the production halted for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we're gonna get the more kotetsu pretty soon. But the finish of the kotetsu is pretty rough, right? He doesn't polish the side. He's super.
Yeah, you can see the grinding marks kind of going from the spine to the edge.
Yeah, but he does it on purpose, right? Because he does it so that it creates a little bit more air pockets. The food will not stick to the blade as much. Much as your polished blades and such. But he wanted to make it edge very thin. But the thinner the knife is, there's more potential for food to stick on the blade. So he did it, he did it that way. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's funny with anything that Shibata-san's designed, even if you think it's just like, oh, he just did it that way because it's easier, because that's how he likes it. Like, there's pretty much always a well thought out reason for doing it that way.
He has like all the philosophy, thoughts behind that product that backs up everything, like why he does. Like, there's always reasoning why he does the way he does. So I like that. Like I've always thinking of, like, say, when I'm doing the steps on the sharpening, I do use this hard. It's the sample knife that I got from him. The sample stones that I got from Naniwa. It's called Hibiki 1000. I started using that particular stone before going into the softer Knifewear 1000, and I do have the reason for it. So each stone selection that I do right now have the specific reason and purpose. And this kind of way of thinking is the definitely Shibata-san has that the way of thinking, and there are a few knife makers, sharpeners, people who I have been interacted with, influenced me over the years.
So you would say like he's probably had the biggest influence on you, hey, compared to other knife sharpeners.
Absolutely. I mean, like, we get to interact with him, so more, right, than the other people. So it's pretty good. Right?
Yeah, he's very generous. He, I mean, comes to visit us often. Obviously not right now, but he's come to visit us a lot of times, and he's very helpful. He's an incredible resource. I don't think we'd quite be where we are as far as our knowledge and our ability if it weren't for him. I mean, every time he's in town, he gives the staff a sharpening demo and blows our mind with 5 new tricks about how to get better at sharpening knives for customers.
Absolutely.
Even when we think we know it all, he drops something on us. Sean Buckle agrees. He's got a couple of Shibata knives. So his knives are absolutely insane. I finally got one of his 240 millimeter R2 Gyutos. That's a cool knife, Sean. And even after a month in a professional kitchen without being sharpened, it still flies through food. That's pretty good. Like a month in a kitchen is a serious workout. He also says, because he's got a tank apparently, when I use my tank, I have to hold back a bit because it is so sharp.
Yeah, I haven't I don't own them, but we test the edge with the papers, and also not only the paper test. I try to actually see how it tapers and how thin the edge is. It's insane. Like for that size of the knife, how tall they are, how relatively thicker the spine is. It's just incredible, incredibly sharpened. Yeah,
that's awesome. Good question from Hello, it's me. I don't know who me is, but hey guys, how much of the knife's geometry is influenced by the sharpener? I'm guessing that's compared to the blacksmith. Who's deciding how thin it should be, for example, the sharpener or the blacksmith? And this individual is from Germany. So hello in Germany.
Hello. The Guten Tag, Guten Morgen, I guess. Good morning there, or Nacht. Anyways, usually the sharpeners will determine how they make the taper. Like the blacksmith, for example, makes the blade like this. Oftentimes, the thickness on the spine and the edge part is very similar. They sometimes use the little bit of taper right here, but the general taper on the blade will be determined by the sharpener. Especially for the say Shibata Kotetsu, it definitely has a lot more philosophy of his behind that than the other knife makers. So he decides what kind of taper it should get than the other blacksmith, the sharpeners do.
That's really cool. And in the case of some of the blacksmiths that are knife sharpeners as well, that we'll talk about later, there's some pretty interesting geometry that goes on as far as like combining forging geometry with sharpening geometry. I won't spoil who we're going to talk about, but it's pretty interesting. Oh, and he says great German pronunciation. Nicely done. Yeah, it's the middle of the night there. So if you can stay up late enough to watch the rest of the stream, we will talk about some blacksmiths that kind of combine blacksmithing geometry with sharpening geometry. There's some pretty interesting stuff that goes on.
Yeah. Alrighty. Shall we move to the next slide, I guess?
Let's do it.
Okay, so here, oops, wrong way. Okay, so here. He's from Sakai, city of Sakai. M as his first name. Y is his last name. He may be not as well known as some other sharpeners in a particular region, Sakai. I was fortunate enough to see him in person, and definitely he sharpens a lot of knives. He has his own workshop, but his workshop is inside of the building that's owned by this larger company in Sakai, the bigger company, relatively in Sakai. Sakai is the place where this sharpener, blacksmith, handle maker, wholesaler division is very clear. So this knife here that I have here is sharpened by forged by Itsuo Doi, and from here, this is usually pass it down to the sharpener and do that job. And he usually, this MY guy, he and his actually two sons, it's actually a family, they usually sharpens a lot of the knives that's forged by Itsuo Doi-san. So those are, and it's pretty hard. So if you can't guess it, don't worry about it. There are a lot of names. That's why I didn't use the nicknames like I did last time, because nicknames is great, but the often it's really hard to guess, right?
Yeah, these folks are a little more obscure. I have insider knowledge, and even I'm struggling to figure out who you're talking about. So I think this is a good educational segment. I'll be impressed if anybody gets all of these right. But feel free to throw your guesses in the comments. We'd love to hear what you think.
I guess it makes it a little bit hard to guess because it's initial, and it has to be has to be like exact, right? Alrighty, I think it makes it a little bit hard for everyone to guess. So I'm just gonna say it's the Mitsuo Yamatsuka-san. So Mitsuo Mitsuo Yamatsuka YAMA. So Yamatsuka-san is
like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Yamatsuka-san. He is
that Japanese class in high school really paid off.
Yeah. He is the one of those blacks or the knife sharpener. Not long, but he sharpens almost all the hand forged knives from Sakai Takayuki. He works at this factory factory that's actually built by Sakai Takayuki, and the family itself does have the workshop inside of the place. He is he's great. He has been sharpened lots of the Doi-san's knives, including something like this. And he was really well known, like any other knife sharpeners in Sakai. They have been really well known for their single bevel sharpening. When the Doi-san started to forge a double bevel knife like these guys here, he and his family quickly adapted to make it really thin. I got a chance to talk to the Matsuka-san when I was visiting him about a year ago, and he always, so like I asked him, it's like, what you have in your mind when you're sharpening? What are you trying to get when you're sharpening? That's the question that I ask. And what answer was like, Japanese people say nikubari, or it's actually the taper. Where the taper starts, how it tapers, therefore how it grinds into the food. This here is really nicely done. The taper is really beautiful here. Or he is also great at making the single bevel as well. So there is the knife.
Yeah, those knives always have a crazy taper. When I pick one up, I almost feel like I'm holding a hanyaki because it just has that crazy. It's really difficult to put into words, but they just feel so nice, and it gives the knife like a crazy good feeling when it cuts. Fighting Yusik was asking if you're actually Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat.
Hmm?
I think you like your outfit.
Oh, yeah. This is like it's from Sakai Takayuki actually. Like as you may see, good to see. And I usually wear this when I'm sharpening it. but the this actually came with a little bit longer sleeve. But when I'm sharpening, the sleeve actually gets super wet, so I decided to take the sleeve off. That's why I said.
You're just getting ready for summer. You're just, doing the pull-off sleeves.
So this Sakai Takayuki Ginsan Zangetsu is done by a Yamatsuka-san, the family there. It's great. It's got although it's got a little bit weird kind of profile, he adjusted to it very quickly, and the shinogi this line is beautiful, and yeah, so does it very very well. His work extends to something like a Sakai Takayuki regular Ginsan series, and he does a lot of sharpening for Sakai Takayuki knives. So if you have it like Sakai Takayuki forged line, that chances are those are sharpened by Yamatsuka-san. And when I was talking to a Sakai Takayuki about those things, and what they told us is that Yamatsuka-san's great sharpener, but those sharpeners oftentimes they don't get as much attention or the same attention as the blacksmiths do, right? But the sharpener's job is super important, and they are as skillful as the blacksmith are. So they're they will like the more attention to those sharpeners, and
they don't get the rock star reputation that a lot of the blacksmiths do, but they absolutely deserve it because they're working just as hard. They train for just as long. I mean, many of them are masters that are in their 50s or 60s or older, and they affect the knife's performance, as we said, probably just as much as the person that's banging the steel with a hammer.
Yeah, exactly. It's the they should deserve more attention to it. The title that we say it's the best sharpeners, there isn't. We shouldn't be calling them like all of them have the pros and cons. I would mention some of the names later on, but they are best at this, and some are best at this kind of situation, right? So we can't really name his absolute best. It's really hard to say that. Okay. Alrighty.
Well, it's like we were saying about the edges earlier. There's a question about knives being super sharp out of the box, and it's the same thing. Like, best sharpener for what? Best sharpener for axes, for razors, for cutting fish, for cutting vegetables. Like, there's so many different applications. It just comes down to their philosophy and their style, and you finding the style of beveling and sharpening that you prefer as a user.
Exactly. Alrighty, so let's move on to the next slide really quick. Okay. Oh, this way. Okay. So, Tosa is the region in Japan. It's the island of Shikoku. They have 4 different prefectures. Tosa is on the bottom or the southernmost prefecture of the Shikoku Island. They are a famous place for a knife making as well as the fishery, like a bonito tunas. Their tataki, which is the seared. It's a sashimi, but you sear the outside with the straw fire. Oh, it's fantastic. That was the best thing I've ate. Like I've eaten when I was back in Japan last year. It was the best thing. But anyways, Tosa is also a very famous place for knife making. Namely, say for example, we have this knife maker we used. Well, we still carry a few knives, but Murata-san is from that particular region. The Kagera-san is from that prefecture. There are a few other blacksmiths, and oftentimes those knife makers in Tosa are blacksmith, and they do have their own sharpening facility and the machinery as well, and they do really sharpen their knives in-house as well. But there's another side to the area because they have been super famous for knife making. The knives that were actually forged in Sakai were sent to Tosa region, get it sharpened, send it back to Sakai, then put this Sakai engraving on them. So 70%, about 70% of knives that has a Sakai on them were sharpened by this area, the Tosa. So this guy, MT, he is trying to change the whole thing, not a whole dynamic, but try to make it like make it so that the Tosa knives, there are great craftsmen in Tosa that can overcome, or can be made under their name rather than the Sakai name.
Right, because Sakai has a great reputation, kind of great branding, so to speak. I think that's their history. Is they've had all that power and ability to really market their knives to a larger market. And the Tosa blacksmiths haven't had that ability, but they do such amazing work there. Especially this person in general, like they deserve the same recognition and the same the same representation on the world stage, I think.
I have the last slide. I have all the names, honorable mentions, but I should mention his name here. The Myojin, Naoto Myojin, the same first name as I do. Myojin-san, he is from that particular region, the Tosa, and he now sharpens one of the probably most well-known knife brand from Sakai now. The Konosuke has the Fujiyama line. That's like they consider as the top of the line. That's sharpened by
it's super well known.
Yeah, Myojin-san is and I'm really curious because the Myojin-san is partnering up with the Toru. Have you met Toru?
Oh, Toru, who used to work at Knifewear in Calgary, right?
He's partnering up with Toru is partnering up with the Myojin-san in Tosa now. So
that's really cool because he worked at Knifewear like 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And went to Japan to become a knife sharpener, right?
Yeah. So, but anyways, that is
We've got one guest in the comments. Well done, Sean.
Well done. And I think it's really much harder to guess the names of the sharpeners.
Right. Yeah, James brought that up in the comments. He says, I feel like guessing sharpeners is a lot harder than blacksmiths, which I think this is a good example of the lack of recognition that knife sharpeners have gotten and what they deserve, because they are a really important part of the equation and they deserve to be better known than they are.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this program, because So yes, Sean, you got it right. Makoto Tadokoro-san. We got the fortunate enough to get his knives in. He, and also honorable mention, the Morihiro-san in the Sakai. He is also known as one of the best sharpeners in Sakai. Tadokoro-san started his sharpening career when right after he graduated from junior high. So it's like age of 15 or 16, he started sharpening. He got into the sharpening business, and he started his own workshop. When he did, he decided he wanted to make better ones, the quality, better sharpening job than he was doing. So he decided to go to other regions and learn. So he met this Morihiro from Sakai, and he got like everything basically the Morihiro-san knows. So Morihiro-san, for those of you who knows, who don't know, Morihiro-san is the very famous blacksmith. His actually full name is not the Morihiro. He's the Hiromi Morimoto. So it's Morimoto-san, but it's a shortened, right? Morihiro. Anyways,
Yeah, that's really cool.
learned a whole lot from the Morihiro-san. Morihiro-san is well known for this really tall beveling. Tall beveling means it's got the nice taper, so that when you cut it into the food, it glides them much nicer. He finishes this is his house brand. It's got a Makoto engraved on them, and it's got a Marushin mark on them here. This particular blade is forged by a Nakagawa-san from the Nakagawa Hamono. I think he's already changed the name to Nakagawa Hamono. It used to be a Shiraki Hamono. Shiraki-san is no longer forging the blade. I think he passed away, I believe. But and also Morihiro-san probably will no longer be able to sharpen knives anymore. He's got a stroke, so he is now in the positioning that he goes to place and teach people and next generation.
But I'm glad to hear he can do that at least. It's important to recognize the tough position that a lot of these blacksmiths are in. A lot of these guys are in their 70s or even 80s, and they're getting to the point where they need to retire and deserve to retire, but also probably want to pass on their skills because they've spent their life, in many cases, since they were a teenager, practicing and perfecting and mastering one skill, often with skills that were passed down from somebody else, and it's important for them to be able to pass that on. I'm glad to hear that he's able to.
Yeah.
There's an interesting conversation going on in the comments between Yusik and Craig, and they've got a really good point that I want to address here that we weren't expecting to talk about today. But Fighting Yusik says, despite about 5 decades immersed in knives, until I recently got serious about Japanese knives, I had no idea the smith and sharpeners were so different people. And that's more often than not the case, right?
Mm-hmm. There are some regional differences as well. So like in my list, there are some blacksmiths who's super good at sharpening as well. So I have those people in the list as well. Particularly in the region of Sakai, that isn't the case. There is again blacksmith and the sharpeners doing that different things. But there are regions that's and that is one of the reasons why you probably won't see the names from the Takefu Knife Village today. I have 2 people, I think, from the Takefu Knife Village, but it's really hard because they do employ a few people who actually sharpens, and there are multiple people who sharpens them. Oftentimes, blacksmith just forges them and sends off to the sharpeners, but they can't really choose who sharpens their knives oftentimes. So it's that's one of the reasons why I don't have much sharpeners from Takefu. And they don't usually.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So is Sakai that way purely for economical reasons? Like, is it just because they've been making knives so long and produce so many knives that it's a necessary production kind of component, or is it more of a cultural thing there?
Few reasons why the Sakai became such diverse division of the labors between the different sections. One, they can be more specialized. If the blacksmith keeps forging the blade, they'll be super good at the heat treating, all the controls of heat and forging and everything. 2, the sharpeners at the same time. 2, they can be super, super good at the sharpening. But 2, I think this is big as well. It's a secret. They can keep their the secret level of skills. They can, if they want to, they don't want to, oftentimes they don't want to teach what they do. So if so the blacksmith don't really know what the sharpeners are doing. Sharpeners are not really aware of what the blacksmiths are doing, and that will keep those trade secrets into their places. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it gives them kind of control over their. I mean, this used to be the case in Europe. There'd be guilds for bakers and guilds for cooks and different trades like that. and it probably allows them to control the flow and control what they're charging a little bit for their services, but it's too bad because it can cause problems. I know years ago, like 6 years ago, Kevin and I went to visit some axe makers in Sweden, and they had really overhauled and modernized their factory in the last 30 years. But before then, when the guy took over the factory in the 90s, sharpening and blacksmithing were two separate trades, and they both got paid per piece, and the sharpener was basically sharpening every part of the axe. They were completely shaping it at the time. They don't make axes that way anymore so much, but at the time they were grinding the top, the bottom, both sides, the back, and the edge. And so the blacksmiths would just be lazy and make really cheap and dirty heads, and then the sharpener would have to do a lot more grinding work, and it would cause a lot of trouble for them. So in some senses, it can, I mean, it's probably different in Japan, but it can cause issues, and it can be, there can be some friction between people that should be working together.
That's why there's the wholesaler comes in between, right? So wholesaler will ask those blacksmiths to forge this blade in this shape, and goes to the sharpeners. So depends on level of sharpening and also how much you pay per piece. The quality of the work changes greatly. I have all the people that I consider that's really good, and sharpening, and also the blacksmith that forges. But there are levels there as well, the tiers, and it can change. We've had some not so super nice piece, like before as well, and it was because of that the sharpeners that were doing the lousy jobs, and and the wholesalers were supposed to stop them from coming into the retails or the customers, but it wasn't working at the time. So we were a little bit upset about that, but it can happen, right? So
yeah, so it may seem like there's a lot of middlemen sometimes, but often it's necessary to ensure there's checks and balances, and the quality when you have people who are, many of them good, dedicated craftspeople, but some of them maybe not quite as much.
Yeah.
We'll get back on topic in a sec. I hope you guys don't mind us going off on these tangents, because it's an interesting conversation. But Fighting Yusik raises a really good point that I would like to address. He says, I wish sharpeners were mentioned in vendor descriptions as much as the smiths are. And I would say that's something as a retailer that we've been not great at. We've been better at it lately. I think since our Small Makers Month last year, Naoto especially has been really drawing attention to the knife sharpeners. But we've always really elevated these blacksmiths up until like this rock star position, standing on these pillars for the last 12 years. And the knife sharpeners, they don't receive as much attention, but we also haven't given them the attention they deserve. So Fighting Yusik, thank you for mentioning that, and I will resolve to incorporate that more into our website and all the areas that we talk about these knife makers, in store and all that sort of thing.
You have to know that there are so many knife makers, knife sharpeners in Japan that they don't want to they want to just conceal their identity. They don't want to, because there's actually one knife that I actually wanted to mention. We got this beautiful knife from the sharpened or the forged by Nakagawa-san, engraved by the Sakai Kikomori. This beautiful 240 millimeters. Oh my! It shows my screen. That's terrible. Okay, I have so many tabs open. Beautiful piece of this Honyaki blade. Look at, I don't know how I'm going to show this. Look at this Mount Fuji hammer to it, and it's a beautiful job. I know the blacksmith because the wholesaler, the Kikomori, was like nice enough. Yeah, it's forged by Nakagawa-san. White number one carbon steel. It's a beautiful piece with the quince handle, and even comes with the matching saya to it. The problem is that I asked for the blacksmith. They didn't want to tell me. It's because the blacksmith don't want that to be to be exposed. So there are the cases and the aspects on that as well. So we will be very careful. It's starting to see more and more names out, which is good, I think. But the fear of, and we understand the, like I understand the fear as well for those people who deals with it, because like especially those wholesalers, because if you see a knife, same steel, forged by same, and sharpened by the same guy, and sometimes you see the like this much price difference or things like that. How would they make it unique? And I totally understand, but we want to tell our customers as much information as possible. That's my stance.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think from now on we can make more of an effort to represent the knife sharpeners. Again, the ones that want to be represented, because some of them just want to hang out and make knives or sharpen knives, and that's kind of all they want their life to be. They don't want the fame or the recognition. But for the ones that do, or at least are willing to, I think it would be great for us to give them a little more lip service and talk about them a bit more. I'm looking forward to the next time we go to Japan and are able to photograph some of these people, because we'll be able to actually represent them with a face put to the name. And for me, I know it's very much easier to recognize a knife maker when I can remember what their face looks like, as opposed to trying to remember their name. There's some great questions in the comments, but let's do a couple more of these knife makers first, because I think we're only at number 3 so far.
All right, next this way. Okay, it's another Sakai knife sharpener. He is relatively young. He's in his very early 40s. He had started sharpening knives when he was the 37. So his career as a knife sharpener is only a 4 or 5 years. This is his picture. That's okay. Doesn't have English on it.
Yeah, I can't read that. If anybody in the comments can read it, good work.
But that's him. I haven't met him. I actually get to talk to him on the Skype the other day. He is I've only seen his work. I have talked to him, but I have seen his work quite a bit, and I'm pretty impressed by the way he does and the bevels that he makes. It makes it really easy for the long-term sharpening as well. And in that 4 or 5 years, he makes really, really, really cool blade. He's from Sakai. He actually works for this company. He doesn't actually has his own individual workshop. He was actually he started working at that company as a sales, and what it says here, they send me this thing as well. So what they say is that he was working as a sales before. But he, at the age of 37, that company decided to open the workshop or the factory. So he was like, I'll be in it. He was like, I'll be a sharpener. And so he actually went to train under some of the well-known blacksmith sharpeners in Sakai, and he is great actually. It's the I'm just gonna tell you.
I'm so impressed and surprised by some of these guys, because we expect in the West, I think we're a little ignorant. We expect all of these knife makers and knife sharpeners to be, the son of somebody or apprenticing since they were 10 years old. And it's crazy how many of them just kind of fall into it. Like so-and-so is a Laserdisc salesman or a professional rugby player, and then ended up being a blacksmith because they decided to change careers. It's a lot more similar to how people here kind of fall into careers because maybe they're not happy with their first one and they start doing something in their late 20s.
Yeah. Oh, we got a couple of good answers. Like Sean, you probably know as much as we do. And Yes, that's the Maruyama-san. He's amazing for the amount of career that he's been doing. Uh, the reason is that he has this clear idea of what the knife should be, how the knife should shape, and the he has a reasoning behind it as well. It's another great thing about great thing about I think he started he started his career as a sharpener at the age of 37, which is like where I am right now. After working for the knife company for a little while, because he and if I were to get into the knife sharpening, like Maruyama-san does, I have good idea of how those knives should be and how they should be sharpened. Whether I could just do it right off the bat or not, that's different story. But he's developed the idea of how the knife should be first in his head, and 3 years of the apprenticing under the famous knife sharpener, he has developed his skill to realize what he had in mind, right? So it's like it's
That's really cool. He's visualized what he wants to create and just like kind of he's smart enough to figure out. That takes a certain kind of intelligence to just suddenly build a roadmap in your head between your skill level now and where you want to be. That's pretty crazy. Not a lot of people can do that.
No, but I think it totally makes sense, and he does it such great way. I'm pretty I'm super excited to see him like when I go to visit him next time. But he's also he told me he's a big collector of T-shirts, so we should send our T-shirts to him.
Yeah, totally. We got some new T-shirts in the works. Actually, we're gonna design some good ones for summer. So yeah, we should definitely send him a couple of those.
Nice. So I got one question that I saw the Fujiyama that AJ is asking. I'm just gonna put this one here. So Fujiyama is the reason why they became so popular. One is definitely branding. It's a branding. Konosuke made the knife, and they put the knife out as this top-notch knife. It is a top-notch. Don't get me wrong, but again, it is sharp, or it is forged by the Yoshikazu Tanaka-san. It is now sharpened by the Myojin-san, but it was sharpened by the before it was he calls the original Fujiyama sharpener. It was the Morihiro-san. It is super well made. Its bevels and stuff like that are fantastic. But at the same time, though, the old knife that I was showing you, very similar. What makes that different? Do they cut 1.5 times better than the others? They won't. It's really that all the images and branding behind that made the Fujiyama so popular that sells out so fast. And you gotta understand say for example, Yoshikazu Tanaka-san only forges 30 knives a day with 2 workers, like one son and one apprentice. So the number is always limited, and from there the Tanaka-san forges for so many different companies. For example, that the old Sakai, the Shiroichi, or the old Sumi series that we helped to develop are forged by the Tanaka-san. We have the Sakai Kikumori, same one forged by Tanaka-san. I went to Tanaka-san's workshop and saw a lot of Masamoto engraving kicking around. And he makes the blades for Masamoto. He makes blades for Konosuke. And good thing is that he doesn't compromise on any of those. He doesn't say, "Oh, I'm forging Konosuke, so I'm gonna make extra kind of stuff. He doesn't do that, right? As a craftsman or the shokunin, he shouldn't be doing that. But the because of that, this 30 a day knife will become very, very scarce because everyone wants his knives, right? That's one of the reasons why it's very rare. And on top of that, who is it? Konosuke did such a great job creating the brand and the image of the Fujiyama, because Fujiyama is the Mount Fuji, right? And Mount Fuji in Japanese means the top notch. It's like saying Mount Everest. If you hear Mount Everest, you think it's the best of the world, like the top of the world, right? So it's the same connotation they gave to that particular line. Call it Fujiyama. It's the best of Japan. In fact, though, it is good, but it's you could go the other route to get the same blade. For example, Sakai Kikumori makes the same blade forged by the Tanaka-san, sharpened by the Myojin-san. They don't call it Fujiyama, but they are technically the same blade.
Yeah, it's like a lot of, you know, fancy scotches and any product like that. That's, you know, often the demand is a little bit, it may be a little bit inflated. Often it's a good product, but it might not be twice as good as a lesser recognized scotch or a lesser recognized knife. It's just, it's made by somebody really good, and then there's really, really good marketing behind it, just like a good perfume or anything, really, right?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the scotch is really good analogy, because Alberta makes a lot of good you know, whiskey, and the
I have some in my glass, Alberta Premium. It's cheap. It comes in a very cheap, drunk person looking bottle, but it's a very high quality rye that's used by a lot of high end bartenders to make cocktails. But they don't put a lot of marketing energy into it. Instead, they just sell it to other brands at a markup and let them put a lot of branding into it.
Yeah, they put like a lot of stuff that's, you know, out of the other countries. Oftentimes, they just put the Alberta Premium into different bottles and calls it different. And that is one of the biggest reasons why especially in Sakai, they don't want to say who the makers are, because it turns out.
Yeah, that makes sense, because then suddenly they're being transparent, and if you're building your brand on not necessarily smoke and mirrors, but if it's built on branding and marketing, and that's kind of all you have, you know, it can start to erode away at that image that you built up for your products as being better than other ones, when maybe it's really good product, but it's actually the same as some of the other ones.
Exactly.
Okay, let's do a bit of a speed run here. Got a few great questions in the comments here. Fighting music, not so much a question, just says hoarding knowledge can be a short-term thing and jeopardize longevity. If one person is out, no one knows what to do. I think that's a really good point. That's something, funny enough, we talk about at work a lot, is having multiple people in on the picture and knowing what another person does with their job is really important. And it's important for the passing down of skills. If you lose a craftsman, suddenly you've got a big gap in the market, and suddenly you can't get these really great knives. Douglas Custom Knives says top 3 sharpeners in knifewear. And we're just going to be fair and say Naoto's the best. And so you have to list everybody else. I won't make you say you're the best, because I know you're modest.
I do what I'm in the position. I'm super fortunate in the position that I can take a little bit more time sharpening stuff. So I am able to do more experimental projects, rather than the you know, at the shop level, you are always being pressured to sharpen this like pile of knives to sharpen, right? So even when I was working at the shop, I took my time to do some experimental work, so I can be. But I am in a position where I could do a little bit more. But this What I do is to be shared in a company rather than to just hold off on myself too. So it's not yeah. If anyone's like willing to learn and to take time, I think most of us working at the shop level are skillful and like skilled enough to be able to do the same work that I do. So that's what I believe. Yeah.
I think, not to brag, but we've got a really good company culture of sharing information, and I think that's really important. Like I wouldn't be half the sharpener I was if it weren't for you and some of the other folks in the company. I don't have the patience to experiment and learn new skills. But when people like you tell me how to be a better sharpener and not suck so much, it makes me much better, and I really appreciate it. Okay, one more before we move on. This is an interesting one that I'm not familiar with. Have you ever tried the BESS sharp testers? I've never heard of them, so hopefully you have, Naoto.
Is that the I have to double check, but is that the one that you put the little string and you put the pressure and it tells you um, how it cuts? I've seen them. I always tell to the customers and on my Instagram and everything. I think that's what it is, but there's it's a basically looks like a scale, right? And it's got a tension. I think that's what it is. Okay, that's the one. Okay, so it's got a tension here, and when you press it or you try to cut the string, you press it down. I think the scale, and when it cuts, it release it, right? So it tells you how much. I think it's scale type of situation. How much force it needed to cut the thing there. I think it's a great tool. Only problem, not a problem, or it's the problem that I have with that particular tool is the same as the circa test with the cutting the paper like this. Um, the kitchen knives that we're sharpening, kitchen knives, those sharpeners are sharpening, are, yeah, again, it's a kitchen knives to cut the lot of different food with, and the just last edge sharpness. Yes, it matters, but it doesn't matter so much when it comes to cutting like so many other things. Um, so like if you have both, it's fantastic. But the I had this experience that the I use super well sharpened Henkel knives. That's been a the super polished. It cuts tomatoes so nice and smooth. But the I got the really dull, say Kursaki, or like relatively dull, what you call it, Masashi Kimuri, which tapers it so well. And when you try to cut the potatoes, yams, and those stuff, yeah, I did struggle cutting tomato with that the little bit dull Masashi. But when I tried to cut the say potatoes and other stuff, definitely the sharpest, like you make it super thin smooth edge of the Henkels will struggle because it just try to wedge them. So I do that's one of the um, one of the things to measure, definitely. I'm not gonna discredit the numbers that you get with that, and I think it's great. But the another aspect is that you don't want to just see the number, say, holy, that cuts it with that small number. It won't really tell me anything about that particular knife.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify how a tool works per se because it's so specific to the user experience and what you're doing. It always comes down to what you're cutting and what you're cutting on and who you are, who's the person who's doing the cutting. There's the Japanese phrase that you've used quite a bit that I always remember, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it translates to the flavor of sharp, which I love, and I think it's not a quantified, it's not, you can't count it on a scale, but it's, in my opinion, the best way to describe the way a knife cuts. What's the terminology for it again?
It's called kireaji. Kireaji. So kire is the sharpness, aji is the flavor. Oftentimes they say, some people say kireaji refers to the flavor of the food that is cut by the sharp knife. I feel the aji, the flavor in Japanese, often translated as the feel. I focus more on the feel, how you feel them when you use them, how your right hand reacts. And often when I sharpen and when I test my edge, of course, I do test them on the newspapers, but what I do is to have these two fingers, like, put pretty close like this, and I put this way. I try to feel how thin the edge is. This is like these days my test of, and try to see how thin that the knife is, and it works pretty well.
That's cool. I'm going to try that out next time. We should move on, but there's a word that I remember when it comes to music and the feeling that it gives you, that a certain kind of music gives you, and it's the phenomenology. And I think the phenomenology of how a knife cuts is the most important thing. And again, you can't assign that a numerical value, but I think at the end of the day, that is the most important thing. And Fighting Useg generally agrees, says it only tells you so much. Any test only tells you so much. A very polished edge can cut well, but it doesn't mean it's great for the kitchen. And again, it really comes down to how you're going to use it and how it feels when you use the knife.
Alrighty, let's do the there. Okay, here. For those who watches our show, Sanjo MY, you should be able to tell this. He is a blacksmith. He is a great sharpener. He is my mentor. I was actually talking to him a couple of days ago. I was chatting on this messaging app, and I had this idea of like, hey, wouldn't that be nice to have a hand forged European style and American style flexible fish fillet knife, right? Like,
yeah, people love that flexible knife, and it's really handy for a lot of applications.
Very thin. And he was like, oh yeah, I've made it before. It was so much hard, but I made it before, and sent me a couple of pictures of the one that he did. It's like, and what he did is like incredible. What he did is that he used blue number 1, white number 2, and there is the Taken steel code V1, and the steel code SK5. He forged welds these 4 different steels, folded a few times, and forged into a blade that's 0.25 millimeters thick. 0.25 millimeters thick.
That's fucking crazy. That's unbelievable.
Insanely thin, and he so it's gonna be like super expensive, but like he sent me the
no kidding.
Sorry.
Hold up. We gotta.
It's like,
can we? Wow, that is a flexible knife. Can we get one of these?
No,
I want one.
Like he's like, it was because like 4 different steels forged welding and stuff, right? He was like, oh, it's too much work. But it's like,
yeah, that's like a Dagwood sandwich with like turkey and salami and bacon and like everything on there. That's crazy.
It was like, hey, you can do this? 0.25 millimeters thickness, flexible like this? Like, it was crazy. And what he told me is like, oh, it's hard to put the edge on because when you try to put the tip edge, because it's flexes so much, it doesn't touch on the sharpening stone.
Well, that's something we know from experience. Sharpening those thin, flexible knives, even one not as thin as that, even a knife that's like a millimeter thick or less is a pain in the ass to sharpen, especially if it's a fillet knife or a boning knife that's really, really bendy. It's just not fun to sharpen because you end up getting flat spots on the curved edge, and it's tough. I can only imagine how much of a challenge that it'd be, like sharpening tinfoil.
Yeah, but yeah, he's incredible. So I guess no one's here, so I'm just gonna say it's a Masashi Yamamoto-san. Probably you, Nathan, you've guessed it. Probably.
Yeah, I actually did guess this one, and Sean would have guessed it, but he said he had to go to work, so he's going to catch the rest of the video later. By the way, Sean just said apparently we're kicking ass lately, and he's loving the video content. So thank you very much, Sean. I know you've gone to work already, but thanks for tuning in, and thanks everybody else for tuning in. Real quick, if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would love it if you subscribed. That would be very much appreciated, and then you won't miss a single video. But yeah, this is the one that I actually figured out ahead of time. Because I know how much how awesome the Sashi-san is.
Yeah. The really big advantage of the Masashi-san is that he is a blacksmith and he also sharpens. So he forges the blade into to the point that he makes it a little bit more easy, makes sense for the sharpeners to sharpen, I guess. So like he makes the forging into he forges so that this making a bevel straight is a little bit easy. He forges so that the taper, he doesn't have to make a taper on the spine to the tip. So it's like makes sense by doing everything by himself. And again, he is the the answer that I got about the fillet knife that I showed you. Masashi-san's response was, "Yeah, I'm crazy." I'm like,
yeah, he's insane.
That's that.
He clearly had some spare time on his hands, or just couldn't sleep at night, because to take 4 completely different steels, forge weld them together, and then you said what, 0.2 something of a millimeter thick?
0.25 millimeter. 0.25 millimeter thickness spine. It's like insane. It's like
I can't think of another blacksmith that's A, crazy enough, and B, skilled enough. Some of them might be crazy enough and some of them might be skilled enough, but I don't think any of them are both of those things enough to do that and make a knife like that. That's unbelievable.
Like, yeah, it's like I've seen, and I fortunate enough to be able to see a lot of blacksmith and knives that knives, but that was like, he is that great. Anyways, okay, let's move on. Okay, next. It's the same. Sanjo. Sanjo is the place in Niigata that's famous for knife making. Wait, I put it wrong. Name, 1 second. I'm gonna fix that. Wait, no, it's good. Who did I put this one? Wait. Oh yeah. This is hard. This is hard. We don't have his knife. It's hard to get his knives. Just say his name, because I don't think no one gets it, because his blacksmith's name's not the TI. This is his name. So his name is Iizuka-san. Iizuka. Iizuka. He is also known as the Shigefusa. Shigefusa is also the almost the. I think I had him as the founder of the kitchen knife making in Niigata, the Sanjo area. He is. Yes, thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you. That was fast.
James is on the ball. James knows his knives. He's got a couple of nice knives, including I believe a Shigefusa. So
I went too fast, but yes, Tokifusa Iizuka-san. He is the one of the first one to making the kitchen, being the basically the kitchen knife maker, kitchen knife blacksmith in that particular region. And his knives are super rare. His philosophy and everything is great. How he sharpens it with the whatchamacallit, the I've actually seen him sharpen on a Shapton glass stones when I was there, and he makes a bevel really good. He uses this tool called Sen. It's like the cutting tool, the metal tool to cut the steel off. So he's incredible in terms, and he does in the way that no one else does. Basically, he does sharpens from the spine all the way to the edge. It's like almost like whatchamacallit, the axe grind. So he doesn't have a micro bevel. He just like does it like and ends. I have done I was fortunate enough to sharpen one of his knives, but that was it. And it's great thing about his knives is that he makes the edge and the bevel easy for other people to sharpen after. That's really the big point, because he makes the bevel really nice and flat and easy to follow. So what you do is just to put the bevel down on the stone and do this. And just
I feel like I need to own one of those knives. That sounds like I love these knife makers that are always thinking about the end user. Some of don't get me wrong, that all of the knife makers we carry are great. Some of them are very focused on making a knife that they feel is perfect, but some of them are just always thinking about the person that's cutting the onions in their kitchen and how can my knife be better for that person. I think that approach is really smart, and I really appreciate it too.
Well, that's one of the reasons why the Shibatasan's great. He has the users always in mind, and he's one of the rare ones to actually sharpeners who cooks at home quite a bit. Because oftentimes those sharpeners they sharpen the knives and they know from the experience and the feedback from the customers or the cooks and chefs, but they don't usually use their own tools in the kitchen themselves. But
do a lot of them, like, do their partners cook, or they just eat out all the time? Like,
it's a spouse that cooks.
Yeah, I would say that makes a massive difference. I mean, if you understand how a person that cooks a lot is going to use a knife and what they're going to want from a knife, it's going to make you a much better knife maker, because you're always thinking about that experience that you're going to have at the end of the day. I think that's really smart. James agrees, says I've sharpened Shigefusa Kasumi Yanagi. The bevel is incredibly easy to sharpen, and I'd say that's a serious consideration.
Yeah, so that's important. Alrighty, let's move on. How many slides do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Okay, okay. Next one.
We'll do a speed round. This will be like last time, where we just piss around and talk for the first hour and a half, and then we blast through the last ones in 20 minutes. If you guys have questions, pop them in the comments. Otherwise, we're just gonna power through a few of these.
So this guy, he is the well, for those people who watches my videos or the live videos and stuff like that, may be familiar with his name. He is he actually is not he's the only one who is not the maker side, although he's thinking of becoming one. He's one of the best probably sharpeners, resharpeners in Japan. He takes a very long time to sharpen knives. He is based out of the Masaka, which is in the Mie Prefecture. Masaka is also known for their incredibly fatty, super good, expensive beef. It's a Masaka beef. And back in the last year, January, late January last year, I get to go to his workshop and the shop and did the sharpening lesson with him. I spent 8 hours. I was there from 9 in the morning, I think, and I left at the place at 6 in the afternoon. You know how many knives I sharpened? Can you guess, Nathan?
One knife.
Yes, one knife. I sharpened one knife with the lecturing, but it was incredible experience with the but alrighty, his name.
That's crazy. I mean, if you sharpened one knife in 8 hours of Knifewear, I don't think you last very long.
Yeah, we're gonna have to charge like $300-$400 for now. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think we'd be very popular if we did that. That's really cool though. Like, well, I've got a question, but I'll leave it. Let's figure out who this person is.
Yeah, his name is Masashi Fujiwara-san. You should be able to type that out.
I remember this one because it's the most confusing knife maker name I've ever heard. Because everybody talks about Fujiwara-san or Masashi-san, and yeah, I always get confused about this one. But yeah, he does some crazy good work.
Yeah. So Masashi Fujiwara-san, he is a fantastic sharpener. He's the kind of guy who taught me about the importance of different types of stones, and start to think what each stone does for different purposes. That's why I started using, say, I kind of mentioned it earlier. I use the very hard 1000 stone and use the same grit, but quite a bit softer to even the bevels out and stuff like that. So he's created a whole series of stones called Kensho, which is the each stone series, each stone grit have its own purpose to it. It's crazy to think about it, but when I was sharpening that particular one knife, I was going back and forth. I was like, so use this 1000. Yeah, it's called zan. So it's like they're trying to cut. So now you use this itadaki. Okay, all right. So you go back to zan again. Okay, itadaki, because itadaki stone, the other stone was to check your work. The work itself is actually done by this zan stone.
That's crazy to think about, but it actually makes a ton. Like, it's the most rational, scientific approach to knife sharpening that I've ever heard. When generally knife sharpening is like, there's some rationality to it, but it's also like kind of half black magic and just experimenting and figuring stuff out. Having stones where it's like, this stone is designed to do this, and then this stone tells you if you're doing a good job or not. That makes so much sense to me.
I was doing back and forth. Then so you go to 3000 on this. That's a checking. So you go back on that 3000. That's a makeup stone basically to make it look pretty good. Like, you use this natural stone for makeup. You use this natural stone for a micro bevel. It's like, and you use this synthetic stone for uraoshi, the back, and you use So it was like a lot of back and forth that I had no idea of. So that was like mind blowing. It was it was good that he had this mindset that and came up with it and made it the realization of the whole set of stones. So for those people who wants to learn a lot more about those stone set series and sets, I should probably do that. In near future, I should cover different type of stuff.
Yeah, we should do a special episode. That makes so much sense to me because I paint a lot of miniatures, and it's a three-dimensional surface that you're painting, and so you have different paint brushes for different sizes of applications, and you have paints that do a base coat, and you have paints that are only for highlighting, and paints that are just for getting into the recesses and shading things, and paints that give you a shiny finish, and paints that give you a dusty finish. And it's the same kind of idea where it's like, you want this specific effect and to do this exact job, here's the stone that does just that. It can be expensive if you're building a knife sharpening kit, but it means that you're going to have the most complete, like, put together approach possible. That's so smart.
Alrighty. Next is, I think it's going to be the first guy from Echizen. Echizen's place where the Takefu Knife Village is, like a lot of those blacksmith knife makers. He has actually became a one of the it's called Dento Kogeshi, or it's called the certified traditional craftsman. in Japan. He started his own company pretty recently, and he's a sharpener. So he gets the blade from the other blacksmith and finishes the way he likes. And he's incredibly skillful, and he has this great mindset to how the knife should be and stuff. So Echizen, a guy from the Takefu Knife Village, he's got the same last name as the super popular blacksmith. Well, because it's brothers, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I had no idea that you said that, and I was like, oh, I know who this guy is. I wonder if anybody in the comments knows.
Yeah.
I know Sean's gone for the day, so he's not going to guess it, but maybe I feel like James might know who this person is.
Yep. Maybe.
If any of you have questions about knife sharpeners, I hope you're enjoying this show, but feel free to pop them in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who are we dealing with there, Naoto?
This is his knife. Just so people may let the
Oh, Craig! I think Craig's got it.
Yeah, Chris got it.
Is it?
It's a Makoto Kurosaki. Makoto-san is the older brother of the Kurosaki, Yu Kurosaki. He started as a knife maker a little bit later than the Yu Kurosaki did, but he started working at the Kato-san's place and became such good sharpener. And he started his own company called Style Kurosaki. And he has been producing like a lot of cool finishes like this. R2 with the Tsuchime. His knives are...
Yeah, his knives are so cool looking. They feel so good in the hand, even without cutting anything.
It's super thin. The taper is great. Also, he's got this... I think we're going to get a few pretty soon, but his coreless Damascus line, and I don't know how he does it, but the only coreless Damascus shows on that this Shinogi line, below the Shinogi, and that's incredibly well made. Really thin, nicely tapers. Yeah, it's Kurosaki-san, and he just became a Dento Kogeshi pretty recently. I'm going to write a blog about this Dento Kogeshi, what they are about, and what what's the significant and what's not. Let's talk about that too, right? Some people are familiar with this name, Dento Kogeshi. Dento means traditional, Koge cross, and shi is the people, right? So it is a certification program that the government in Japan puts out. Now it is certified by this individual organization that does it, but there are like say Dento Kogeshi in the regions like Sakai, Takefu, and other places where one of the probably most skilled blacksmiths that we deal with are not really certified as a Dento Kogeshi, and why? And I am actually writing a blog about it, so stay tuned. It probably should be ready in a couple weeks to a month, because I'm still writing it. Nathan hasn't seen it.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that. I always learn so much for your blogs. I'm excited to get some more going.
Alrighty. Next. Another region, Echizen. Echizen is the region. This guy here is from not from Takefu, but but in the same region. It is made by brothers now. His father passed away, I think, pretty recently. But the brothers, I can't remember his brother's name. This TT is it's a blacksmith actually name, and his brother does mainly a sharpening. and I'm going through some of the my uh, cardstock book. So that's the I got his card somewhere as well because I get to see. Sometimes I get to see him, but it's hidden. So let's.
Yeah, we got one guest in the comments there.
Yeah.
Oh, and Dave Inspector tuned in. Friday night and the kitchen is a bumpin'. I'm guessing you're at work. I'm glad to see all our cook friends are back at work. A lot of the restaurant folks have had to take an uncomfortable amount of time off in the last year, so I'm glad to see you guys back at work. I was driving down 17th Avenue today in Calgary, and the pub patios are packed. So I imagine there's a lot of people pumping out wings and nachos tonight as well.
It's super nice out, right? So it's taking advantage. I think that's the.
Yeah, we got to get through these knife sharpeners so we can get you out of that office and into some sunshine. You got any plans to enjoy the sunlight this weekend, Naoto?
Not really. I gotta take the some barbecues out and stuff. I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah. Bust out the Conroe.
Yeah, I don't have the specific plan yet, but yeah, the who is it? Eroi?
Eroi Pantsu. Yeah.
Eroi Pantsu.
Is that who it is?
I think it says Eroi Pantsu. Eroi Pantsu means the and just let's not say it in English.
Yes. Is it inappropriate?
A little bit. I mean,
at least we can say it in Japanese.
Eroi means the erotic. Erotic.
Yes.
This is a panty. It's Eroi Pantsu. Anyways, yes, Takamura-san. His brother does such a great job sharpening it. I couldn't find his card, so I just did Terukazu, which is the Takamura-san's first name. I think it's not TT, but it's a Takamura. The way that they do it's great. The taper is great. The way that they produce the way they make this taper is the combination of both the big wheel and the machine. So they put on this big wheel for the initial grind aratogi, and often they put that on the jiken or the machine to sharpen it. But because machine doesn't get to that precise grind and sharpness or the thinness, utilizing both machines will get this crazy thinness and a taper. And Takamura-san is definitely one of those people who a lot of people look up to, including a Shibatasan. When Shibata
cool.
his knives, he was like, yeah, it's like I want to sharpen like a Takamura-san.
I can see that in the way that he makes the kotetsu knives, because you've got that look that almost makes it look machine made, and it's got really consistent straight grinding lines heading down the blade. And a lot of people wouldn't even believe it was a handmade blade because it looks so pristine and so well polished, and it's sometimes hard to believe that it's handmade, even though it is.
I think it's the combination of both, right? Because he uses a little bit of machine, lots of hand job. And last this grinding job is the machine that makes it a little bit more like even, right? So
yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah. Hey, James says he's planning to do some Conroe grilling this weekend. And I asked him what he's cooking. He says just some thick chicken thigh, zucchini, and some Wagyu beef skewers. Oh, sounds pretty great.
Apparently, the Eroi Pantsu is his another account.
That's James. I like it. And Damon said he's just cooking so many pizzas.
Yeah.
James, David, do you happen to work in a bar or a restaurant that serves beer? Because I'm guessing with the nice weather, I don't know where you're located, but if you're anywhere near where we are, it's just beautiful outside. I imagine people are just getting plastered on the patio and ordering tons and tons of food.
Yeah.
Fighting Isak has a good question. Might be a technical issue. Is there comments turned off in this video, or do we have to wait to post them until after the stream? Isak, the chat that's going on right now is that should show up. If you're not seeing it, let me know. It might be a technical problem on our end. But as far as actual comments on the video, I think you have to wait for it to go basically not live. Like once we're done broadcasting, it'll show up on the channel as a video, and then you can leave a comment if you have one. And if so, thank you for doing that. And David says, yeah, he's in Niagara, but yeah, beer and pizza. Anywhere that it's not cold right now, people are having beer and pizza.
Yeah. Alrighty. All right. Next. It's easy because there are two blacksmiths in that particular city. But the one's like a little bit more famous and very unique, that's this guy. I'm sure, third generation. He doesn't say he is a third generation. He says he is the third one in the family making the making knife there. That means not a generational, but he says he's at least second generation. His father started as a swordsmith, and he and does the same thing. Not on swordsmithing, but
we have one guess from James Dean.
Yep, it's
is back and forth and back and forth. I don't know what that means.
I think Eroy Pantsu and James. No, James Dean. Sorry, not that. I thought James won, but his one of the characteristic of his blade is that how thin he forges the blade into. And I just grabbed this particular knife from his, like one of the newer batches from him. This is crazy. This is crazy. Even after making the blade for that long, he seems to be getting better.
That's interesting because he's been doing it for a long time, and even when he switched to doing the stainless clad carbon, I noticed they seemed a little bit thicker. So he's one of those guys that's just continually improving and always trying to get better.
Why? This is crazy. This is crazy because oh my god, this is crazy. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, can you show us on camera? we've had a couple of good guesses so far. While we're just waiting for Naoto, thanks for everyone that's tuning in. Next week we're going to cover knife rehandling, I believe. So keep your eyes open for that. So we've had a couple of guesses, one from James and one from Craig. Would you say they're correct?
Yeah, that's Takeda. So Takeda-san's way of sharpening is very interesting and unique. This is one of the knives that falls under a unique sharpening. So he doesn't put any cobalt on it. It's not the I don't consider this is the best knife to cut everything. As I mentioned like a couple weeks ago, his knives are fantastic to cut the meat and raw meats and stuff like that because it's got a little bit of higher spots right here. So when you try to cut the daikon or the carrots into that little, say, inch thick medallion, it may wedge them a little bit easier, and it is the case for sure. But
I seem to remember seeing Justin LeBeau come into the shop about 6 years ago with his Takeda knife, with a bit of a sheepish look on his face because he had butchered a pig with it. I don't recommend doing that with your Takeda either.
Mm-hmm. No. But here's the two Takedas that I have. Like I had this Takeda came in for sharpening with the rehandling, so I did that. And this is one of the newer batches that we got. What I found on this new batch, I was fascinated. It's always been known for his thin forging technique, right? But oftentimes what he did is that not much taper from here to here. He usually always had a very similar thickness from here that the heel to the tip. Although this one does have a little bit of taper. I'm just gonna settle. This one here is crazy. I don't know if you can see them. At the heel, right here, right?
Yeah, it's pretty thick back there.
And see how
Oh, wow.
pours it down? And this is like so thin.
Yeah, that's insane. That's not what we're used to seeing from him, eh?
No, this is incredible. Oh my god! And like
So
this
is
is
he going for sort of more ruggedness near the back end and then a little more precision near the front, do you think?
a little bit. The edge angle is very similar all the way, but the definitely you get a lot more thinner. Like when you're cutting into like dicing onions and cut like things like that, it will make it a little bit easier for sure. Oh, this is crazy how he does it. Sorry, I was like, I get so.
You're that excited about it, hey? That's how we know it's a good knife. Is when Naoto's losing his mind over it. That's the one I should get excited about.
This is crazy. Yeah, this one is crazy nice. Okay, so we should probably start to wrap up almost.
Yeah. Is that all 10?
What's that?
Is that all 10 knife sharpeners?
The last, I think there's a last one.
Yeah. Got one more. Okay. Well, quickly, Fighting Yusik says, also, Naoto, thanks for the kind comments via email today about my Suncraft Senzo fitting and polishing. You gave me the kick in the butt to do it. Good encouragement.
So he sent us an email saying, and showed us the work that he did. So it was pretty good.
Yeah, if anybody wants to show Naoto the work they've done on their knives, you can get in touch with them at naoto@knifewear.com. It's Naoto at knifewear.com.
All right. So last but not least, this guy here that we deal with, Sanjo, another place. We had the Masashi Yamamoto-san, we had the Izuka-san from, and this guy. I think I should have had in. I may not have had them at the blacksmith, but I really like him finishing touch on his sharpening job. He's incredible. He's got the super crazy Damascus patterns and stuff. He's very good on like in front camera. He is but most of all, I love the way he finishes his knives, especially finishing with the natural stones. And the way that he does, he makes the again bevel very nice and even, no lost spots. So this guy's knife, one of the more expensive knives, I have had a chance to sharpening them, but it was so nice to put the edge back on and was pretty easy. He loves jazz, and at his workshop, I think he built new workshop, a new sharpening station, and I've seen his workshop and him sharpening knives with the jazz record playing.
I don't own one of his knives yet, but the whole jazz thing has made me convinced that I need to own one of this guy's knives.
It's hard to come by though, right? His knives, because.
So does that mean that James Wang is correct in his guess?
Yeah, and yeah, I don't have knife to show because it's the it's Hinora-san. His especially his the force lines like a what you call it, river jump, Unryu. Those lines are fantastic as the blades are very nicely beveled, really nice, even taper, really nice. There's no low spots on anything like that. So he basically takes really, really good care of his knives. Last but no, well, it's the last slide that I have is this guy here. Worth mentioning. A lot of knife makers, sharpeners that we have not had a chance to carry, but there are this many knife makers. Morihiro-san, again, fantastic sharpener. His son, the coach son, is the taking over. But the coach son is still like in a 10-year in, I think, and he's learning still. But Morihiro-san was the mentor for lots of the knife sharpeners in that particular region. I have the like some famous names like Hideaki Yamamoto. He's got their own brand called Hide. We got the like I'm really interested in this Takada-san, Takada no Hamono. The he used to be working at the Ashi Hamono, and he started his own workshop a couple years back. His finishes are very artistic. His suiboku knives, it shows the flow lines and stuff, and just beautiful. But I'd be pretty curious. Some of them I've seen that looks a little bit really thin. It really depends on what you like, but thinner on the knife makes it a little bit more hard. Here is the another one, like Hakui. Hakui-san. I left I there. Minoru Hakui-san is the legend. He passed away. But if you ever get a chance, for those of you watching, if you ever get a chance, Koho Masakuni is the honyaki knife that's sharpened by him. It's apparently it's great. Another person that I have is the Ajioka-san. Ajioka-san is the guy who we get the Kikumori, these knives from. It's actually really nicely sharpened. The taper is fantastic. And I've asked them specifically not to expose the one side of the core too much than the other, and they've done a really good job. Koichi Morimoto, also another really famous sharpener in Sakai. As you can see lots of Sakai sharpeners. We have the Tosa-san. He is a sharpener who sharpens our honyaki knives, and he's pretty good at mirror polishing. I was going to add another one on the list. It's called the after the Naoto Myojin-san, I was going to actually add Akira Sasaoka-san, who carries some of his knives, relatively inexpensive single bevels. But like we have some of their knives, but some of them are pretty yeah. I really like the Hakuho, but it's really hard to get. I'm sure, James, you may have one. But yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if James had one.
But yeah, those are the list, and again the purpose of this. One of the biggest reason why I wanted to cover this blacksmith or the sharpeners this week is that just put the spotlight on those sharpeners who oftentimes get usually get hidden, or usually those blacksmiths get a spotlight all the time, and those sharpeners are just like sitting in the behind of the curtains and places like that. So,
yeah, you don't think of the sharpener. A lot of people assume the sharpener, they're just putting the final edge on the knife, and they're really doing a ton of work and really responsible for a lot of how the knife performs. And I think we ought to, and other people as well, ought to put a little more attention on them and give them the recognition they deserve, because it's really incredible the work they do and just how much it affects how well our kitchen knives work.
I know. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about them, so that and we represent a bit of the sharpeners, knife makers, blacksmiths, and time to time put in those like getting the spotlight on those people is great. So,
yeah, we're very, very lucky to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Our buddy Fighting Music says, "Cool idea for an episode tonight, guys. I really enjoyed it." Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We've really enjoyed having you all and having so many great questions as always. We've got one more from Craig's Kitchen Rocks. It's great info tonight. any knowledge / techniques from these sharpeners that could help us serious home sharpeners. And that is something that's definitely worth tuning in for on a regular basis. But any tips you could leave them with?
Yeah. Like if you want to know the specifics of the some knife knowledges or knife sharpening knowledges and stuff like that, leave the comment, send us email, email to help. No wait, what's the help desk email?
Hello@knifewear.com.
Yeah.
You can also message us on Instagram if you want, or chat with us on our website too. We got a live chat there.
Yeah.
Damon says, by the way, got a chance to use that Iwasaki, which is a Japanese straight razor, for those of you that don't know. Never shaved with a straight razor before. Took me 30 minutes to shave. That sounds awfully familiar. Right hand only, Ruda facing out always. What an experience. Well, I hope it was a good experience, Damon. Let us know. I've been using an Iwasaki for a number of years. Don't be afraid to use the other side of the blade. I use both sides myself, but you want your angle to be different. There is a thought out there that you can only use the one side. You can definitely use both sides, but it's personal preference. Do what feels right and is easiest for you.
We asked the Iwasaki-san how to use the back, like how to use the back of the blade. He was like,
yeah.
He was like this, like it didn't change anything. I was like, why did you ask? Like he had this puzzled eye. Like, why did you ask?
I'm glad I wasn't committing sacrilege by telling people to use both sides of the blade. And David says, fantastic experience. Well, I'm glad to hear that. James also loving the show, which I'm happy to hear. Thanks as always for tuning in, James. And also says, from a user perspective, I think Sharpener is just as important as the blacksmith, in my opinion. Well, I think we both agree with you there, James.
Yes.
I want to play a quick video for you guys. It's partially a test because we're testing our technical capabilities. For those of you that have been watching for a while, you probably heard rumblings that we're going to start improving our video quality. Next week, we're going to be ordering some webcams. Finally, I know it's been months, and some microphones. So our production quality should be shooting up really soon. But we're also playing some videos during our live stream. So I'm going to play just a short little 2-minute video. It's actually a great interview with Shibatasan from our documentary Springhammer. We shot this 6 years ago or so, maybe 7 now. And this was the documentary about knife making that we shot. It's available to watch in its entirety on our YouTube channel. I'm just going to play a couple minutes of it, our interview with Shibata-san. Hopefully it'll play fine. If it's really janky or jumpy or the sound is off on your end, please let us know in the comments. But if not, hope you enjoy.
ここはですね、広島県の福山市っていうところで、皆さん広島って言ったら原爆イメージされると思うんですけど、100キロぐらい離れてこちらは何もなかったんですけど、でも原爆の2日後に福山大空襲っていうのがあって、それで町はもう焼け野原になったっていう場所なんですけど、はい、ここはですね、僕の、工場で。ここで刃物の研ぎ直しもしますし、製造もしていきます。そうですね、研ぐっていうことはすごいその包丁の性能を左右かなりすると思います。鍛造も確かに左右されるんですけど、やっぱ研ぐっていうことでよく切れるか切れないかっていうのがかなり変わってくると思います。そうですね、この今後ろに見える砥石で、粗く削ってはいくんですけど、それであらかたの形を作って、そこからですね、まず第一にはその鋼を出す幅が両方揃わないといけないんで、それを揃えるために見ているのと、あとは 包丁がですね、やっぱ片方を研いでいくと片方に曲がってくるんですよ。こうで、それがちょっと曲がってきて、この逆側を研いであげて、まっすぐになるようにちょっとずつ研いでいくんですよ。かなり重要だと思います。ただまあ薄くしてしまえばいいっていうわけでもないんですけど、若干のこう厚みを持たせながら薄くしていく、それによって強さもありながら切れ味も良くなっていくんですけど、ここの部分を手を抜くとやっぱりなかなかよく切れる包丁っていうのは作れないと思います。そうです。もうここでほぼ形のもうほぼ 90% 以上作ってしまうので、ここでしっかりやっておかないと後で直すことはもうできないです。
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. I'm a big fan of that film. Obviously, I'm a bit biased, but I think that those thoughts from Shiba really kind of rounded out this episode really well, because it really is about the constant attention to detail and the constant thought about the end user, and the focusing on the experience of using knives that makes, I think, a great knife maker, whether it's the blacksmith or the sharpener or a bit of both. I think that's really the key. I'm excited to learn more about these craftspeople that we don't know as much about. Thanks, Naoto.
Yeah, no, thank you. It was great. Thanks for everyone for watching tonight, and yeah, we'll try to do this type of show as well as the sharpening, kind of back to back kind of stuff. So hopefully you tune in again next week, and we'll see you. If you have any last comments, just let us know. But otherwise, it's pretty good time for us now.
Yeah, we're on Friday at 4 p.m. Mountain Time every single Friday. Although I think we'll be taking Good Friday off, so that's the only time you won't see us. But we got a couple more episodes before that. Tuesdays at 4 p.m. is Japanese Knife 101. We got a very special episode coming up next week because it is going to be St. Patrick's Day. I don't think it's actually on Tuesday, but for months people have been telling Chris and Kevin they should have a drinking game, so they are going to get probably really drunk on camera on next Tuesday, and that's 4 Mountain Time. After that, the following week, Japanese Knife 101 is going to bump up to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. We're trying out some different stream times to see what works best for everybody. As always, Thursday, 7:15 p.m. Mountain Time is Sharpening Night in Canada with the Vancouver crew. If you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, we would seriously appreciate it. Just hit the subscribe button. It'll tell you every time we have a new video. We had a new one today out about how to carve a beef roast, but it'll also tell you when we've got live videos coming up. We announce it about 24 hours ahead of time, so that'll give you a notification. As well as, if you don't mind, like this video. If you enjoyed it, if you didn't enjoy it, don't like it, but if you liked it, we would love that very much. We're trying to make this YouTube thing a real thing that we do, and your help is greatly appreciated on this. Next week, we have, if I'm not mistaken, how to rehandle a knife, how to take the handle off of the knife, and how to put a new one on. And this will be an interesting topic. Something that is, I think a lot of people are probably afraid to do, maybe, if they haven't done it before. Certainly things that can be done the wrong way. So yeah, we'll have some great education then. And then the following week, we're going to do how to sharpen an axe. I'm going to bring some of my expertise from Ken of Inglewood, our sister store, as well as some of my just kind of more camping outdoor background. Naoto's going to bring his usual steel expertise as well, and we're going to talk about kind of our two different approaches to sharpening axes, how we like to do things similarly, how we like to do them differently, because, you know, summer's coming. Some of us are going to get out and do some camping this summer, so if you need to sharpen up your axe 2 weeks from now, that'll be the time. Other than that, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for all the kind comments. You guys are really great and supportive, and that makes us just want to do this more and more. So yeah, thanks everybody. If you ever have requests, we haven't finalized the April schedule yet, so if there's a topic you want to see, leave a comment on this video after we're done, and we will work that into our schedule for April. We need more stuff to talk about, and really we want to focus on the topics that you want to hear. Naoto, you got any closing comments?
No, that's great. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you. Hopefully, see you soon.
Yeah. Have a good weekend, guys. Do some barbecuing.